What's going on, people, and welcome to the Q&A for June 2024. We've got a bunch of questions, most of them relating to Deepwoken, not hugely surprising considering that's what I've pretty much been doing for the last month. But without further ado, let's jump into it. Our first question is from Sylvania. I hope I pronounced that right. They say, "Hey Eclipse, not a Deepwoken player here, but I genuinely enjoyed your recent Deepwoken adventure gameplay series from your way of narrating. I was wondering if you're going to continue or plan on making more story narration type of stuff on other games in the near future. And I've been curious, do you enjoy or actually like making these types of videos? P.S. Keep up the great content." Thank you. As for will there be more of these videos, well, as I said in my most recent story video, the Deepbound one is probably the last one, but there might be one more, maybe technically two, although the last one will not be in quite the same vein as all of the other ones. Honestly, both of them have the potential of not quite being in the same vein because, well, it was a little bit messy, let's just put it that way. But regardless, do I have any plans of doing more of them? I don't know, it's kind of hard to say, mostly coming down from the fact that it's really hard to make these. There's a lot of lack of understanding on the internet when it comes to how much work goes into YouTube videos, because a lot of people don't edit, so they just don't know. And they also don't take into consideration the amount of time it takes to actually gather the footage for the videos. If I spend 6 to 8 hours recording for a video, that's 6 to 8 hours out of my day that I'm not recording or doing anything. 6 to 8 hours is a lot of people's shifts at their job. And the thing is that, generally speaking, I treat playing Roblox and editing my videos like my job, and then when that's finished, then I go and I play something else, or I do something with my free time, you know, all the things that normal people with normal jobs do. And at the end of the day, I have 2 days to get videos out. So generally speaking, it shouldn't be that big of a problem if I spend 6 to 8 hours playing a game and then 6 to 8 hours editing a game. I should, in theory, be able to get things out on time. But I don't have weekends because I don't work weekends, and I'm also very, very rarely here on weekends because of drum corps. Basically what I'm getting at is the amount of time that I have to dedicate towards these videos and the amount of time it takes is astronomical compared to some of the other videos that I make. Sometimes I can put a video together in like 2.5 hours. And the thing is that video that I put together in 2.5 hours might very well do the same or better than the video that I spent 20 hours on. And so that's where the problems start cropping up. Putting in hours and hours and hours and hours of work into something that just doesn't quite pan out is pretty soul-crushing at the end of the day. It is offset by the fact that I genuinely do enjoy making the videos, as you asked in your own comment. They're really fun to make, and they're the first few videos that I've been proud of in a really long time, mostly because, well, I actually did put time and effort into them instead of like 2.5 hours. But regardless, at the end of the day, are there going to be more of them? Maybe. Are there going to be more on other games? Highly unlikely, because I need to have a vision of this stuff before I start, and if I don't have one, then, well, it's just not gonna pan out. The next comment is from William8857. I finally definitely pronounced the name right. Are you guys proud of me? They say, "Love the videos, would also love it if you made a video about Isle. It's a good horror game with multiple endings, and exploring it without the wiki is fun." Well, if it's on Roblox, then I will probably not play it, because I've talked time and time and time again about how I feel about Roblox horror games, and yeah, it ain't exactly good, let's just put it that way. I'm not a fan of horror games. I'm really not a fan of Roblox horror games, so I'm just telling you right now, if you're suggesting Roblox horror games, the odds of me playing them are astronomically low. I figured I'd put that in the Q&A, hopefully, so that way people won't get their hopes up. Next comment comes from ZZ Kira, who's a member. Thank you, much appreciated. And they say, "What type of videos should we expect from you in the near future? I enjoy your Deepwoken story videos, so I'm really curious on what you're planning on doing next." And this question is impossible because I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to do next, and I've been playing it by ear for the last like 3 or 4 weeks. Probably longer than that, to be honest. A few weeks back, I had some personal shit go down, and I exhausted my entire backlog of videos, and since then I haven't had the time to refresh that backlog, which means that basically every single video that you see coming out was made within the last 2 days or so, which hasn't been the case for the last several months. And what that basically means is I don't have the time buffer to figure out what the hell I'm doing, and I'm just kind of gunning it. So what videos are going to come out next? I have no idea. In fact, I'm working on this right now on Tuesday. It's going to come out on Wednesday. And then I have to make a video between now and Wednesday because I'm leaving on Wednesday and won't be back until like Sunday. So, yeah, it's a bit of a mess over here. We got a lot going on, and I got a lot of work to do. But as for what I'm planning on doing next, I genuinely couldn't tell you. I don't know. I'm having a lot of fun with Deepwoken, so stuff like that shouldn't necessarily be expected, but don't be surprised. And yeah, that's gonna be that. The next comment is from Pistoli. Pistauli. Oh God, man, we're back to names I can't pronounce. Hey Clips, semi-long-time fan here, not pre-YBA level long-term fan. Anyways, watching your videos made me want to play Deepwoken again, and it's been pretty fun, so thanks for that. But this isn't the subject of my question. I was wondering what made you come back to Deepwoken in the first place, and what do you love about it? What interests you about the game in the first place? Also, will you be planning to make different types of content on Deepwoken? If so, what would it be? P.S. I'm glad you managed at the very least to get out of the JoJo rabbit hole, even though you're kinda stuck on Roblox. Also, please don't make too much fun of my abusive tendencies. Yeah, I'm not worried about that. And the thing is that I'm not out of the JoJo rabbit hole. If you look at the views on my videos, the best ones are still the ones on JoJo. So we haven't quite escaped that yet, but we're working on it. And the thing is that if a good Roblox JoJo game did come out, I'd still be absolutely in line to play it because, well, I do still like the genre. It's just nothing good came from it, which is unfortunate. But onto the topic of the actual question itself, why did I come back to Deepwoken to begin with? Because I was saying over and over and over again that I just couldn't get myself to force myself to play this game. And as I said, or sort of alluded to in one of the previous comments, one of the big ones was that I just couldn't force myself to play a game that I knew was going to be a massive undertaking to actually figure out. Playing Deepwoken sometimes feels like doing homework, and it's not something that I'm a stranger to. A lot of you know this, but I was an avid Tarkov player back in the day, and that game is doing a hell of a lot of homework, and it reminded me a lot of that. But seeing as I already went through a game like that, I understand how much time and effort it takes to figure everything out, and I just wasn't sure if I wanted to put in that amount of time considering everything else that I had to do. Because at the end of the day, if I'm just playing it during my work time and not playing it during my off time learning the game is effectively time taking away from the amount of time, that's a lot of times, that I'm making videos. So I have to take a lot of time away from making videos to learn the game. I mean, for God's sakes, trying to figure out how the damn Shrine of Order works and looking at every single talent in the game and all of their different requirements, it is a headache and a half, let me tell you. And I still don't feel comfortable saying that I'm knowledgeable about the game, because I'm sure there's a boatload of stuff I still don't know. So that was probably the biggest barrier. Eventually, I just decided people might like this, and I also had the idea for a story series where I sort of redeemed myself from the whole Layer 2 situation, and then after the first Primadon video, I was like, holy shit, I can sort of totally remove a lot of the meta elements of this and just make it an actual story series, which I didn't see anybody doing, and so I was like, well, this could be really cool. So basically, the idea of the story series is what really brought me back in, because I was playing a little bit just to sort of test the waters and see how much I could figure out without going too in-depth, and now I've sort of fallen down the rabbit hole, so to speak. Next question is from I don't know. If given a chance, what game outside of Roblox would you like to make a first impressions or full review of? Love your videos, by the way. Been watching since the YBA days. Thank you. As for what games I'd like to make a first impressions or full review of, I frankly have absolutely no idea, because you have to understand that the first impressions and review videos for games outside of Roblox only come about when I actually play games outside of Roblox, which in terms of games that I can actually review or make impressions of is pretty rare. So for example, the last one I did, I believe, was on Halo, And that game I just played because I'd been wanting to play it for a long time, and I'd heard some pretty good things about it. And when I played it, I was blown away, and I was like, I have to review this game because this is probably the best Halo game I've ever played, which really caught me off guard because a lot of people have just absolutely dumpstered on Halo Infinite, and I didn't get it. Now I do. A lot of it has to do with broken promises and multiplayer stuff that I just didn't know about. So as an outsider who just jumped in and wanted to play a Halo game after not playing one in a couple years, it was fantastic, and I had a really, really, really good time with it, and I wanted to make a review. So what it ends up coming down to is if I don't actually play a game, then, well, I don't know if I'm going to do an impressions or review on it. I will say that at some point I'd like to play Elden Ring. I know there's a fair amount of hype for that. I know the DLC came out, but the unfortunate reality is that I know a lot of people won't watch it, so whether or not that ever goes up on the channel, I have no idea. But it's been on my backlog for 800 years. I've had a ton of people tell me that basically all of the problems that I had with Dark Souls, and especially the problems I had with Dark Souls 2, have been pretty much axed in Elden Ring. And if that's the case, I'd probably have a really, really good time with it. So we'll see. Who knows? The next question is from Vil MC, and they say, "Hey Eclipse, I was wondering whether you've considered revisiting some of the Roblox games that you liked. By that I mean coming back to them and exploring more of what they have to offer, just like how you did with Deepwoken. By the way, I love your content. Keep it up." I don't really think there's very many games that fit this description. There aren't a whole lot of games that I liked that I would go back to see what more they have to offer in terms of like games that I feel like I can make videos on. I don't really know how else to explain it other than that. I will say in terms of like doing retrospectives on games that I played a long time ago, things like Troublesome Battlegrounds, things like, I mean, even for God's sakes, YBA, things like Project Star, which I think I actually made a video on talking about a retrospective for it. Videos like that I do want to do at some point because I think that could be a really interesting topic. I've learned a lot of stuff about game design and how I feel about different aspects of games since I played a lot of those games way back then, even games like YBA. I mean, just looking at that game now, I see mechanics like the fact that you need to hold a spec item to use spec moves, and I just scratch my head and I'm looking at it and I'm like, why in God's name would they program it like that? That's so obnoxious. And it's things like that that I just took for granted and never even thought about when I used to play the game. But now that I'm looking back on it, I'm just sitting here and I'm like, wow, that's a terrible decision that makes no sense. So it's things like that that are interesting to me and might get videos in the future, but who knows. User JT7IC1JE3R says, "Now that summer's here, did you defeat the 8 snowmans?" No, I actually didn't defeat any snowmans, unfortunately, so I guess that'll have to be a goal for next year. Next question is from Cyroxy, who says, "Hello, I wonder which games you think has the best combat mechanics in Roblox. Also, do you think Rel Seas will be another Blox Fruit in time? Asking this because I feel like Rel Seas is just a mix of Assassin's Creed, Zelda, and Blox Fruit." Well, for the first question, I don't think there is a game on Roblox that has the quote-unquote best combat mechanics because, first of all, combat mechanics are subjective, which means that everyone has a differing opinion on them. And second of all, they're all radically different. You can have a game that's combat mechanics are shoot the bad guy and they die in 3 bullets. And then you can have another combat mechanic where it's punch the bad guy and they die in 60 punches. And both those games can have player bases that enjoy their combat mechanics far better than the other people. So I don't think it's fair to necessarily judge. And there's other things like talking about true M1 combos and stun simulators and all those sorts of things where it really comes down to a matter of preference a lot of the time. I personally am not a fan of getting hit by one move and then having someone hit 7 keys on their keyboard in a row and having me stuck there without any chance to get out of it. But other people like that a lot. I may personally be more of a fan of a neutral-based game where most things don't combo, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who don't like that, so just because I like it doesn't mean it's the best, per se. In terms of whether or not I think Rel Seas will be another Blox Fruit, I don't know. It's hard to say, and I won't make that judgment until the game actually comes out. I think it's pretty clear that they don't want it to be Blox Fruit, but whether or not that will actually pan out in the long run because money, who knows? Roblox CH Gaming 5766 says, what are your opinions on Sonic? Have you ever played one, and would you ever take the time to make a review on one? Man, Sonic is a bit of a loaded question for me, to be perfectly honest, because I have not played any of them other than the first one. And I basically made my judgment call on the first one and haven't played any of them since then, despite some of the pleas from my brother who claims some of them are good and wishes I would play them. Generally speaking, I don't think the Sonic games are bad games as platformers, but I do think that the design philosophy behind Sonic is extremely backwards and kind of goes against, well, everything the game seemingly is supposed to stand for. So let's think about this for a second. Sonic is a game where you're supposed to go fast. But if you go fast, you run into an object and take damage. So you can't go fast. Gotta go fast is a myth and an illusion. You really have to gotta go slow and crawl through the levels aside from certain areas where you go fast. But those certain areas where you go fast are on rails and you don't have control of your character. So you're basically just playing a normal slow-ass platformer where sometimes the game goes on rails and shoots you off at Mach 16. That's my general impression of Sonic games. Now, let me get this straight. I understand that if you've played the levels a lot and you're a speedrunner or something, you can go fast as shit. But as a normal player who's playing it through the first time, going fast has a tendency of being a complete death sentence. So, I don't know. It's like they couldn't make up their mind, because if you go too fast and you could just fly through the levels, then it wouldn't really be a game. But what that ends up resulting in is you just going slow as ass everywhere you go because you can't go fast. I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense. That was my experience from playing the game. Maybe I'm alone on that. It feels like I am. I've never seen that take before other than from myself, but I'm also not going around looking for Sonic takes, so who knows? Maybe that's a really popular opinion. Coming up on our penultimate question here, and we have BB Games 2944 who says, will you give Pilgrimmed another shot? I know you really didn't enjoy Pilgrimmed that much and didn't see yourself coming back to it, but they fixed the snow assassin issue, and I really suggest that you complete the game and re-review it, or come back to the game after the next major update. Highly unlikely. I understand that a lot of people said that Pilgrimmed was great because of the bosses, but you have to understand that when I played through the game, I ran into one boss who got stat checked, and that was it. If the game is hiding bosses all around the map and I never actually run into them, then, well, I don't have very good reason to continue playing the game or thinking that it's any good. Pilgrimmed runs into the same pitfalls that I run into time and time again with Roblox games, where the beginning of their game doesn't give you enough of a hook to make you want to continue playing. So if you get to the point where I was currently at, you'd just be like, wow, this is kind of boring, I'm going to quit, and I'm not going to play again. And that's where I ended up with Pilgrim. It wasn't interesting, I didn't really find the humor very charming, and the boss battles are all hidden around the map, and I don't want to be Wikiman looking around for bosses because I'm already Wikiman for Deepwoken, and I hate drawing that line as it is, so I don't know. Do I plan on coming back? Basically 0% chance. And the last question comes from Yue or Moon, and they say, other than FPS games, do you play anything else in your free time? And what other game genres do you play? Well, if you've seen the channel a fair amount for the last few years, you'll know that I play a ton of different games. And if you take a look at my top 10 games of all time, you'll also know that, because I play a huge variety of games, and that variety of games has only really increased since I started doing YouTube and became sort of a game reviewer in a sense. I've played RTS games, I've played JRPGs, I've played standard RPGs, turn-based strategy games. I've played a huge list of different games. I've basically played everything at this point. Well, that's not fair. Some people are going to say you haven't played X game. I've basically played every genre of game. I generally try to put my biases aside when I'm getting into genres that I initially think that I won't like, because, well, a lot of people like those games, so surely there's got to be a reason why, and if I just go in expecting it to be something that I won't like, then I'm not going to like it. So for something like Final Fantasy VII, which I gave a 10 out of 10, that game I didn't like JRPGs or turn-based combat games for the most part, but I went into it with an open mind because I knew a lot of people liked it, and I came out the other side with one of my favorite games of all time. So, you know, that worked out pretty well. Generally speaking, I play a ton of different games, but FPS games are sort of my rock because, well, a lot of them are live service. They update all the time. I'm pretty good at first-person shooters, and it's something social that I can play with my brother and my friends. With that, we're wrapping up on the Q&A, though. We had some pretty decent questions this time, so that's always fun. And naturally, if you have any questions that didn't get answered, I'll be doing another one next month. With that, though, I'm wrapping up here. So if you enjoyed the video, you can leave a like and subscribe. If you didn't, don't. And with all that being said, have a wonderful day or night wherever you are. And I'll see you guys next time.